Hi, everybody. Today I'm here to give you my thoughts on Prince Harry's new memoir, Spare, that just came out last week on January 10th. And there will be some spoilers ahead because it's difficult to talk about my feelings about this book without talking about the content of the book. So, as many of you probably know, Prince Harry and his new wife, Meghan, left the royal family in 2020 to pursue a life of their own and are currently living in the US. And in this book, Prince Harry addresses why they decided to leave the UK and some of the challenges that they're having in navigating their new life apart from the royal family. The book is divided into three parts. The first part deals with his childhood and growing up with his mother, Princess Diana, and his brother, Prince William, and his mother's death and his feelings about that, a lot of which are unresolved. So he shares that for a long time he believed she wasn't really dead, but she had just made a secret escape from the publicity and the tabloid world, and that she had kind of staged this accident in order to get away from the pressures of marrying into the royal family. And he equates that a lot with what happened to Meghan, that he feels that her treatment by the tabloid press and even by the palace was unfair because she was not only an outsider to the royal family, but she was an American and coming into a completely different culture than she was used to, and that she was treated very harshly, in his opinion. He also reveals that he feels that the palace um, often planted stories or spun stories to divert attention from negative information about other members of the royal family. And in doing so, they put negative attention on Meghan or fanned the flames of that in order to uh, improve their own public relations image. So that first section of the book has to do with that idea of coming into the royal family as an outsider and being a target of the tabloids, to have no privacy, to have no say in how you are depicted to the public, and the frustrations and despair and grief that can come along with that. In the second part of the book, he addresses mostly his military service and his early adult years, and those years that he was considered to be kind of the playboy prince. He was getting in trouble. He was known for clubbing and going out with a lot of girls and experimenting with substances and things like that, and really lacking direction in his life. And again, he ties this to unresolved grief, unresolved trauma, not having a good outlet to deal with his feelings, not having a confidant, not having support, and feeling that he had a support system behind him until he joined the military. And you may have heard it said that the military is good for a lot of people because it gives structure and discipline to their lives. And I really think that that was probably true for Harry, that being in the military gave him boundaries and structure that he hadn't experienced before. It gave him a sense of camaraderie. It gave him a sense of being one of the guys, not above the rest of the people, and also not below them. Because one of the challenges that he struggled with for all of his life, and the title of the book, Spare, is the idea that his older brother is going to inherit the throne, and that he is kind of was only brought into this world to be a backup kind of a person, that he wasn't the focus of attention. He wasn't the number one. He was always the number two. Well, being in the military gave him a sense of being a comrade with other people, and he also had the opportunity to be in charge of various units and missions, which gave him the opportunity to be the number one person. He also found a lot of satisfaction in visiting Africa and working with underprivileged communities there, And again, being accepted for who he was, uh, being able to really connect with people, and to continue some of his mother's work there. So that's what most of part two is about. And then he enters into part three, which is his marriage, his life with Megan, meeting her, falling in love with her, and establishing what is now the most important relationship of his life with his new wife. So in part three, we get a lot of detail about how his relationship with Megan came together. A lot of it was different from what I had heard or what I had expected. So it is interesting to hear the story right from Harry of how they were introduced to one another in their early dates, how they had to bypass a lot of what we would consider normal courtship behaviors because they were geographically so far apart and time was so limited that their courtship, if you will, was kind of compressed into a shorter period of time and probably sidestepped a lot of what we would consider normal protocols about how well you need to know someone before you share certain things. But they became very close and connected and felt that kind of soulmate connection. And up until the time they married, in the early days of their marriage, things seemed to be going well. They seemed to be accepted by the royal family. But once the tabloid press kicked in with some very harsh criticism of her and some harsh racist hate speech toward her, and Harry feeling that she wasn't being protected and that the palace was not doing anything to control these stories, things started to spin a bit out of control. Meghan became very depressed, and Harry became very frustrated that he couldn't protect his wife or make their new marriage a good experience for her. They inevitably decided they wanted to step back from their royal duties, and that caused a family upheaval where they eventually left completely. And you can read more of the details about that decision in the book. I really appreciate one thing he said in an interview that I saw on TV, or maybe it was their documentary on Netflix. It wasn't in the book, but he mentioned that, she gave up everything for him. In the beginning, she gave up her nationality, she gave up her religion, she gave up the culture that she was used to, she gave up her job, she gave up her social media presence. She gave up everything to move to the UK, to marry this man, to become part of his family, and to participate in the activities that his family did. And then when everything fell apart and they decided to relocate to the US, Harry had said that, people said, oh, you're giving up a lot. But he said, she gave up everything for me. Now I'm giving up everything for her in a sense, but it's the partnership. It's because we want to be together, and that's our number one priority over everything else. So they're now living in California, raising their two children here. And you may know that King Charles III is scheduled to be crowned on, I believe, May 6th. And there is some question in the media whether Harry is going to be part of the coronation, whether he and Meghan are going to be invited to participate in the coronation and therefore return to the UK for that event. So we'll see how that plays out. I am very hopeful that there can be a reconciliation in this family. From reading the book, it feels to me like things really spun out of control and some hurtful things were said, and maybe with some time and some breathing room, they'll be able to put things back together. It would be a shame if they couldn't, because, Harry and William, they're brothers, they're the only siblings each other has. They're the sons of Princess Diana, and I believe she would like to see them stick together and support one another. Now, I saw a number of reviews of this book online, and I saw one in particular where the reviewer was saying that she was disappointed in the book because she felt that Harry didn't reflect deeply enough on the meaning of monarchy and the meaning of the way his wife was treated, and he didn't reflect deeply on his own life experiences and things like that. And I feel that that was an unfair criticism. He's still a young man, and this was his first go at really telling his own story in an uninterrupted fashion. And as far as reflecting deeply on these things, I think maybe he's just not there yet. And that's okay. Most people write memoirs at the end of their lives, and I don't think Harry has quite sussed out what all of this means yet. He doesn't yet know what his relationship with his family or with his brother is going to be like in the future. He doesn't yet know what the monarchy is going to look like in the future. So to ask him to be able to look back on these things and extract some profound meanings from them, I think might be expecting more than is appropriate right now. I think he's still in that process. And to me, it was clear from reading the book that he's still going through that process. And there are still a lot of unresolved feelings and unresolved issues that he has. So if you approach the book from that standpoint, that this is a snapshot of a point in time, this is a man who is at the beginning of marriage and fatherhood, at the beginning of striking out on his own, past the boundaries of his family of origin, and he's now living in a culture that's different for him, living in the US. So he's still figuring things out. And maybe I can say that from a perspective of being a bit older than he is, but I think we should give him some grace. If we are interested in his story, I would like to treat it with respect. So I encourage you to read the book if you're interested in the royal family or you're interested in Prince Harry. There are some profound understandings in the book, but not all of them. He hasn't quite processed all of it yet, and I say that that's okay. But I do recommend it as a good read. Take care. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.